Let's be real for a second. Most people don't get enough sleep. Some of us stay up too late, some of us wake up too early, and some of us just can't fall asleep at all. And the truth is, we get used to it. We tell ourselves, I'm fine. We grab another coffee, push through the day, and just keep going. But here's the problem. When you don't get enough sleep, your brain isn't just tired, it's struggling. And over time, that lack of rest starts to change the way your mind works. We're not talking about missing a nap or staying up late once in a while. We're talking about regular, ongoing sleep loss, even just cutting corners a few hours a night. And the effects? They're bigger than most people realize. So let's break it down. Let's start with your attention. One of the first things that breaks down when you don't sleep enough is your ability to focus. Think of your brain like a flashlight. When you're well rested, the beam is strong and steady. You can shine it where you want, pay attention, and stay on task. But when you're sleep deprived, that light gets dim, it flickers, your thoughts wander, you lose your train of thought halfway through a sentence. You zone out in the middle of a conversation, you read the same paragraph 5 times and still don't remember what it said. Even just one bad night can mess with your attention span the next day. And if you keep missing sleep, your ability to concentrate gets worse, not slowly, but quickly. Now let's talk about memory. Sleep is when your brain does some of its most important work. It sorts through everything you experienced during the day, what you saw, heard, learned, felt, and it starts organizing it. It decides what to keep and what to throw away. That's part of how memory works. But if you skip sleep, your brain never finishes that job. That's why you might struggle to remember things after a bad night. Maybe you forget where you put your keys. Maybe you can't recall something someone just told you. Maybe you studied all night for a test and then blanked out when it started. Without sleep, short-term memories don't get locked in, and long-term memories, they can start to fade too. It's not just annoying, it actually affects how you learn. Because memory and learning are tightly connected. If your brain can't store what you learned today, it can't build on it tomorrow. So over time, no sleep means no real progress, just spinning your wheels. And then there's your mood. When you don't sleep, your emotions get out of balance. You might feel more stressed, more anxious, more impatient, even over little things. You snap at people, you feel overwhelmed. You're less able to cope with problems. Why does that happen? Because sleep helps regulate your emotional brain, especially a part called the amygdala, which controls fear and anger. When you're sleep deprived, that part of your brain becomes more reactive. It's like having a short fuse. And at the same time, the logical part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, gets weaker. So you have less control over your reactions. That's why people who don't sleep enough often feel emotionally off. They're more likely to feel sad, lonely, or irritable. And over time, sleep loss can even lead to depression or anxiety. Not because they're weak, but because their brain chemistry is out of balance. Here's something else that might surprise you. Sleep isn't just about how you feel the next day. It actually affects your mental health long-term. Studies have shown that people who don't get enough sleep are more likely to struggle with mental health disorders, especially mood disorders like depression, anxiety, and even bipolar disorder. It's not the only factor, of course, but it's a big one. Because when your brain doesn't get time to reset every night, the pressure builds, and eventually something breaks. Now let's talk about decision-making. When you're low on sleep, your brain has a harder time thinking clearly. You make more mistakes, you miss details, you take more risks. You don't think things through the same way. This is especially dangerous in situations where clear thinking matters, like driving, working with tools, managing money, or making choices that affect other people. And the worst part? When you're sleep deprived, you often don't realize how impaired you are. You feel like you're functioning, but your brain is operating at a lower level. That's why sleep-deprived people often say, "I'm fine," even when they're not. In fact, brain scans show that people who miss sleep have less activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps with planning, judgment, and self-control. That means your ability to make smart, safe, thoughtful decisions gets weaker, even if you think you're doing okay. Let's go a little deeper now, because there's something else happening behind the scenes. When you don't sleep enough, your brain builds up waste. Yes, really. During the day, your brain is active. It burns energy, processes information, reacts to the world. And just like any machine, it produces waste byproducts, chemical leftovers that need to be cleaned out. That cleanup happens while you sleep, especially during deep sleep. There's a system in the brain called the glymphatic system. Think of it as your brain's cleaning crew. It flushes out toxins and waste while you sleep. One of the substances it removes is something called beta amyloid, a sticky protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. So what happens if you don't sleep enough? That waste starts to build up. And over time, researchers believe it may raise your risk for cognitive decline, memory loss, or even dementia. It's not just about being tired. It's about your brain being unable to clear out what it needs to get rid of. Think about that. Sleep is when your brain takes out the trash, and without it, the trash piles up. There's also a link between sleep and creativity. You might have noticed this yourself. After a good night's sleep, your mind feels clearer. You get ideas. You connect things. You solve problems more easily. That's not a coincidence. During sleep, especially REM sleep, your brain strengthens connections between different ideas. It mixes memories, emotions, and thoughts. That's where a lot of creativity and insight comes from. But when you cut your sleep short, you cut off that process. You lose the time your brain needs to think in new ways. That's why sleep isn't just about energy, it's about inspiration too. And here's the kicker. It doesn't take much sleep loss to see these effects. You don't have to pull an all-nighter. Even missing 1 or 2 hours a night every night adds up. It's what researchers call sleep debt. And just like real debt, it builds. You might not feel it right away, but over time the interest stacks up and it starts to pull you down. You start to feel foggy, burned out, disconnected, and often you don't even know why, because it creeps in slowly. So if you've been feeling mentally drained, emotionally off, or just not like yourself lately, your sleep could be playing a much bigger role than you think. Now let's dig deeper into what's actually happening when you sleep, and why missing it takes such a heavy toll on your mind. First off, sleep isn't just one big block of rest. It's made up of stages, and your brain cycles through these stages several times during the night. There are 4 main stages. 3 of them are grouped as non-REM sleep, and the 4th is called REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement. The first stage is that light, drifting off feeling where your brain and body are just beginning to relax. Then comes stage 2, where your body temperature drops and your brain waves start to slow down. After that is stage 3, deep sleep. This is the most physically restorative stage, where your body repairs itself and your brain begins its cleanup process, clearing out waste and toxins that build up during the day. Then you enter REM sleep. This is where dreams happen. Your brain becomes very active during REM, even though your body stays still. REM sleep plays a big role in emotional processing, memory storage, and creative thinking. Throughout the night, your brain goes through these cycles again and again. But here's the problem. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not completing enough of these cycles. That means you're missing some of the most important stages, like deep sleep and REM, which usually happen later in the night. So when you cut your sleep short, you're not just losing time, you're losing quality. Now, how much sleep do you actually need? Most adults need about 7 to 9 hours a night. Teenagers and young adults often need even more, around 8 to 10 hours, because their brains are still developing. And yet, those are often the people getting the least sleep. You might wonder, can you catch up on sleep if you've been missing it all week? The answer is, kind of, but not completely. You can recover a little by sleeping in on the weekend, and that can help you feel better short term. But if you're regularly running on 4 or 5 hours a night, your brain never fully catches up. That ongoing sleep debt builds up over time and starts to wear down your focus, your mood, and your memory, sometimes without you even noticing. So what can you do if your sleep has been off for a long time? Let's talk about a few practical, research-backed tips that can actually help. First, stick to a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your brain works best when it follows a regular rhythm. Second, limit screen time before bed. Phones, TVs, and computers give off blue light that tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, which makes it harder to fall asleep. Turning off screens an hour before bed, or at least switching to night mode, can make a real difference. Third, keep your bedroom dark, cool, and quiet. A cooler room temperature is somewhere between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Helps your body relax. Using blackout curtains or an eye mask can block out light, and earplugs or white noise can drown out distracting sounds. Fourth, be mindful of caffeine. It can stay in your system for up to 8 hours, even if you don't feel jittery. Try avoiding coffee and energy drinks in the late afternoon or evening. Fifth, get some sunlight in the morning. Natural light early in the day helps reset your internal clock, telling your brain it's time to be awake, which also helps you feel sleepier when nighttime comes. Here's another helpful tip. If you can't sleep, don't lie in bed tossing and turning. Get up and do something quiet and relaxing, like reading or listening to calming music, until you feel drowsy. Lying in bed awake for too long can make your brain associate your bed with frustration instead of rest. And finally, be patient with yourself. If your sleep has been disrupted for a while, it may take time to get back into a healthy rhythm, but your brain can bounce back. It just needs consistency, not perfection. Now, what if you've tried all of this and you still can't sleep? That might be a sign of something deeper, like chronic insomnia, sleep apnea, anxiety, or other medical conditions. And that's okay. It's not something to be ashamed of. Talking to a doctor or doing a sleep study could help you figure out what's going on. Sometimes the fix is small, sometimes it takes longer, but ignoring it doesn't help. Because when your brain isn't getting the rest it needs, everything else, your thinking, your emotions, your memory, starts to slip. Let's bring it all together. Your brain is doing so much more during sleep than just resting. It's sorting memories, cleaning up waste, balancing emotions, strengthening learning, and helping you wake up ready to handle life. When you skip sleep, all of that gets cut short. It's not just that you feel tired. It's that your brain isn't getting the chance to be itself. Over time, that can lead to mental fog, burnout, irritability, or even more serious issues like depression and anxiety. But here's the good news. Even small improvements in your sleep can make a difference. Going to bed 30 minutes earlier, turning off your phone an hour before bed, getting outside in the morning. These aren't massive changes, but they're real steps toward helping your brain recover and work the way it's supposed to. So if you've been feeling off, mentally or emotionally, don't overlook sleep. It might be the most powerful and most overlooked part of your mental health. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Because a rested brain isn't just more focused or productive, it's more you. Clearer, calmer, more capable of handling whatever the day throws at you. You only get one brain, and it works best when you let it rest. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more. Take care and see you next time.